Hey guys, today you're going to learn the power and freedom that comes with setting up your life with structure. So if you have struggled with consistently getting routines in place, stick around, and today I'm going to go over why it's important and how to go about doing it. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ashley here. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you're probably wondering, why in the world do I spend so much time devoted to teaching you about how our brains work, and why is that so important when it comes to our health? My understanding, based on working with both myself and patients for a decade now, is that your health comes down to two things. The first is knowledge, just understanding what it is that we need to do or not do in order to achieve health. That's one half of it. The other half of it really comes down to action. What you actually consistently, persistently, repeatedly do or don't do on a regular daily basis is what translates into your health. For example, you could know every intricacy about the human diet and what is best and what are superfoods and what's the best way to prepare and the perfect ratios for everything and how to get all of your micronutrients, all of that. But it means nothing for your actual health if you don't consistently do that, follow that diet, and consume those foods that promote health and avoid foods that work against your health. So that is why I spend so much time on this other 50%. The first 50%, the knowledge piece, there's so many resources for you out there to go learn about health. Follow others of my videos, follow other YouTubers for their kind of opinions on what is healthy. Go read books. There's so many courses and classes, and there's so many ways to go about doing this. But again, what I want to teach you is how to actually put those things into place in your life so that you actually get the benefits of them. And that's why I spend so much time harping on our primitive brain and how our brain works and how to set up our days and our habits, how to make good habits, how to break bad habits, the power of, staying in this moment so that you don't get overwhelmed by all of the decisions that you've ever made and the ones that you have to make in the future, but how you can stay focused and make the right decision right now for you, and how that continues to build up and give you the health that you want. So let's go into the three big reasons why I feel routines are so important to our lives, and then we'll get into the how-to of establishing routines. So first, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me talk about our primitive or our toddler brains. Those are the lower part of our brains that were responsible for helping us stay alive when survival was very difficult. Our toddler brains want what they want when they want it, which is right now, and they want to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve as much energy as possible. Another thing about these kind of toddler brains is that they like to find patterns in their environment, they like consistency, and they hate change. So if you've ever raised young children, you know this. You know how much toddlers thrive on these kind of schedules, these routines that they can see coming. Their brain can anticipate what's next. And even if they don't really want something, if they've seen that same pattern over and over again, they'll accept it. So bedtime is a great example. Even when they don't want to go to bed, if you're still doing that same kind of set of activities at roughly the same time each night, their brains are like, it's bedtime. I could try to fight it, but is it worth that extra energy? Or should I just go accept it and go to sleep? And most of the time, they'll eventually just accept it and go to sleep. We want to treat this kind of lower part of our brain similar as to our toddlers. Even though this was our evolving brain that was really responsible for keeping us fed, sheltered, and safe from physical danger, and if you've seen my other videos, I talk about how we want to many times override that lower brain and use our higher functioning cortex to make those big decisions so that we continue to evolve and grow and achieve happiness kind of over the long term in our lives. This still is very beneficial because if you get everything on autopilot, it really gives you a lot more freedom. It frees up so much of that brain power and brain space when you don't have to kind of think about, okay, it's 5 a.m., my alarm went off, what's my next step? If you do these patterns consistently, it makes it automatically a new neural pathway. So you don't even have to, fight with your primitive brain again, like the toddler, saying, I don't want to get up and exercise, because it's just automatically what you do. You don't have to cognitively kind of bring in your higher functioning brain saying like, okay, like, I got to go get the right clothes for it. Or, today, what am I doing today? Is it cardio? Is it weight training? The more consistently you do that, the more that brain power gets reserved for more important things in your life. So that's the number one reason, is that it just makes it easier on your toddler brain and it gives you more freedom in your executive brain. The second reason that this is so important, that's very related to number one, is that it decreases decision fatigue. It decreases the amount of options that you have at any one time, which can sound restrictive, but really it's not. Because instead of having this, you wake up and say you want to exercise, and then your toddler brain comes in and says, well, I don't really want to exercise. What if we sleep? Or what if we just enjoy our coffee on the, while we sit on the couch and watch television? And so it sounds like self-care or taking care of yourself by saying, well, I want to listen to my body and do what it's telling me in the moment. But then now you push it off to an hour and you have to have that same dialogue again. Okay, well, now I really should exercise, but your primitive brain comes up and says, okay, but maybe we're hungry. Maybe we should go get breakfast. Or maybe we should start working on work and just getting a couple of those tasks done. And then you indulge that primitive brain who's trying to avoid exercise by doing other things. And then 2 hours later, that same conversation is coming up. So it's just delaying this inevitable activity that you want to get done that will ultimately lead to improvement in your health. And it's creating so much drama and dialogue in your brain and just indulging in confusion. Well, should I do this now or should I do it later? Should I do it now or should I do it later? Or should I do this first? And instead of just saying, this is the schedule, this is the plan that I had laid out, let's stop even talking about it. I could have gotten my exercise done first thing in the morning and then I had all day to do everything else. You've just delayed that and caused yourself so much misery. And say you have planned later in the day for some sort of hobby or rest or activity that you were really looking forward to. And you could choose to engage in that activity, but always in the back of your brain being like, oh, I still need to exercise. I haven't exercised yet. I haven't done it yet. Or you can sit there in confusion and say, well, should I do that activity? Should I do my hobby? Or should I actually just go exercise? So that you're not accomplishing either of them. So in that way, it's less restrictive when you plan it intentionally. So when you plan that hobby and that fun activity, and you reserve it because you know it's important to you, it gives you so much more freedom. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the how-to, but just understand that the schedule actually translates into more freedom, but you have to stick to it and not listen to your primitive brain. So you can see if you do this over time, that brain chatter that your primitive brain brings up about, oh, we don't want to exercise right now, let's just put it off till later. If you do this consistently, your brain's going to give up. It's going to say, okay, whatever, she gets up and she exercises every morning, I can't stop it, so we should just accept it, right? And that sounds so much more enjoyable instead of having to argue with yourself or convince yourself to go exercise. It's just, okay, it's 5 a.m., that's what we do. We get up and we exercise. And the same can be said for other somewhat difficult decisions, like especially when it comes to food. If you have if you give yourself a lot of freedom and options about food, about when should we eat, how much should we eat, what content should we eat, if you restrain that and decrease that amount of decisions, your higher brain will have more energy to make sure that you follow through, instead of sitting there arguing with your primitive brain about how, no, we said we were going to eat X, we're not going to turn around and go to the fast food joint. It gives you more energy and more freedom in that way. Okay, and then the third point that I wanted to make about the importance of setting your life up with a regular routine is that we are creatures, we are humans who live on the planet Earth, who have a day set up in a 24-hour cycle, who have a year cycle with seasons. That is just if you look around in nature where we live, nature is set up with routine. And that is the way our physiology is as well. We have our 24-hour circadian rhythm. We have our hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal function. So our cortisol, our fight or flight, is set up in a way that is very that's on a 24-hour clock. So it pumps, our adrenal glands pump out stress hormones first thing in the morning to really wake us up and get us going, with the intention that they'll fall off during the evening. And when we're not honoring the way that our physiology is set up, that's when you get into a bunch of trouble when it comes to your health. That's when you get chronic insomnia because your melatonin is all off. That's when you get these chronic kind of low-lying stress and anxiety that doesn't feel like a full-blown disorder, but just something's always a little bit off because your brain's like, wait, what are we doing? Is it day? Is it night? Do you need more cortisol? You seem a little like we're under a little bit of pressure. Let's pump out a little bit more cortisol. But then you get drained because you don't have enough cortisol reserves. This is the problem that leads to all of this fatigue and insomnia, and also kind of being this low-level jittery, anxious, is that we're not following and honoring the way our physiology was set up. So also look at it like fall back and spring forward, and how much that really can affect a lot of us. A lot of us can feel like crap for several weeks where our body's trying to adjust. And we're so mad that, we've set this up as society and we hate it. But yet we do this to our bodies on a regular, like a weekly cycle, especially when we're following a certain schedule during the week, and then all of a sudden the weekend comes and it's, whatever we want. Our bodies weren't designed to have a weekday and a weekend. They were designed to have a 24-hour day-night cycle, and then seasonally change, and then yearly change. So that's why the power of routine that you follow on a regular basis. It doesn't mean it needs to be perfect, but on a regular basis is so important for your physiology and health. Okay, so now that you understand why routine is so important, next let's talk about the how-to of setting up and following through with a routine. So this is the order that you want to do things. Number 1, list out all of the things that you need to do repeatedly over and over again on a regular basis, and put them in order of priorities for you. Second, schedule them. Plan at least one day in advance how you're going to accomplish all of these things. And then step number 3 is follow through with them. So let's break those down a little bit more. So the first step is listing out all of those things that you need to do repeatedly on a at least weekly basis, and list them in order of priority for you. So what I have actually done is I went ahead and just listed mine on 2 separate sheets. One is our weekly tasks, and one is my daily, or at least 5 days a week tasks. So these are my priorities on almost an everyday basis. So sleep, food, exercise, my daily 3, which I'll explain what that is here in a second. Oh, taking care of my son and doing work. And then in the evening, kind of my relaxing time, and I'll go over what that is as well. And then I also have my weekly things. So things that I don't need to do on a daily basis, but laundry, groceries, other house chores, and then like my hobbies and weekend fun. That needs to happen on a weekly basis. And then what you do is you just list out everything that you need to do on an as needed basis. So this isn't part of your regular routine. So I need to schedule my eye doctor appointment, and I need to book some flights for vacation. So these don't take priority. Everything else that I do on my routine does take priority first. So I've listed out kind of things that I do on a all the time basis, and then coming up in the weeks ahead, the things that I just need to kind of fit in here and there. So let's talk about scheduling and how I go about doing that. So when you're scheduling, the goal is to Do those things on the daily and weekly basis that you do over and over again at roughly the same time each day or each week. And that's what sets you up for success for this. It's not that, okay, I'm going to get my 8 hours of sleep from midnight to 8 on Sunday, but then on Monday, I'm planning to go to bed at 10 and get up at 6. Your brain can't keep up that quickly with it. So when we're talking about sleep, I never schedule anything between 8 and 5. Like 8 is my wind down time. And so I can go to bed by 9 and get up at 5. When I exercise, almost every time I exercise, it's at 5 a.m. As much as possible, I try to get it done first thing in the morning. My son is still asleep, so I can guarantee that I get it done. And my brain knows what to expect. It's ready for it versus changing it up daily. I know that's not going to work with everybody's schedule, but just try to be consistent as possible. So if you're somebody who needs to do a morning workout 2 days a week and then an evening workout 2 days a week, great. Pick more vigorous activities to do in the morning and then more calming kind of yoga, stretching, light walking in the evenings so that it's more consistent with that cortisol level and your melatonin level. So we're not throwing off your sleep and your wakefulness, your responsiveness cycles during the day. Okay. So as I said, I prioritize sleep. I prioritize exercise, and then I plan out my food. And when we're scheduling, we always do it at least one day in advance, because if it's the day of, your primitive brain is going to throw a fit. It's going to throw out every trick it has in the book to try to get you to do something else that's more pleasurable or less painful or more conserving of energy. It's gonna do everything. It's so funny, your primitive brain doesn't really care when you're scheduling in advance because it doesn't see that immediacy. It's like, oh, we have to do that tomorrow. I don't really care about it. So you want to make these good decisions. It's like going to the grocery store and planning your meal at the grocery store with a toddler. If you have a toddler there who's always like, bugging you while you're trying to create a meal in your head, that's very hard compared to having your list. You have already designed what you're going to eat tonight and you just have to go mark off those things and go grab them. It's much more easy for your brain to also manage that toddler at the same time. So that's exactly what we're doing. So I plan out my food twice weekly. So I have my weekly groceries that I go through. And then the day beforehand, I plan out my food for tomorrow. So I know exactly what I'm going to have for lunch and I know exactly what I'm going to have for dinner. Again, taking away that moment, that in the moment decision fatigue where my brain is like, oh, but we could go do this instead. I could say, nope, this is what the schedule says. This is what our routine is. So that is part of my daily routine. I mentioned my daily 3. So this is something that I do every day, no matter what. I meditate for at least 20 minutes. That's usually my minimum. And then I'll go up to 45 minutes, just depending on the day. I also do what I call a thought download or a thought journal to clear out my mind. And then I write my food down. So I keep a food journal as well. And I weigh myself daily. And I include that with my food journal. So those are my daily 3. So tracking food and weight, meditating, and then doing my journaling. And then on the days that I am home with my son, I have his regular schedule. So when he wakes up and nap time, and then we build our day around those things. So we build our fun and our activities or any chores that we need to do around his sleep and his eating as well. And then also I know, my hours for work, and I keep my work within those hours. I don't take my work home at night, or I rarely do. And I really try to avoid that so that I'm working during my work hours and not working at the evening. And it's so interesting. I will tell you, every time that I work at night, whether it is on a computer or not, my brain just keeps going and I have such a hard time sleeping at night. So I really try to keep my work during my scheduled work hours. And then I reserve time in the evenings after my son goes to bed before my husband and I go to bed. And then depending on what he's doing, either we'll watch a TV show, we'll go sit outside now that the weather's a little bit nicer and enjoy the sunset, or I'll do some just personal reading that I'm into then. So those are my daily things. And then weekly, I do my laundry once a week on the weekends. I do my food plan and my groceries on the weekends. And then we always kind of build in our fun and our activities. And those are a priority. Like those need to get scheduled and those need to be honored when you're scheduling them. And that's why this allows you so much freedom, because you're not procrastinating, as we mentioned, putting off all of the other less fun tasks and chores that you have to do, and then either not doing what you had planned to for fun, or doing it but having your brain always be thinking about how you need to do more stuff. And instead, it allows you to be fully present in that moment of having those fun activities. And then after I have all of those priorities kind of scheduled in that kind of regular, consistent way, then I know where I have pockets of free time that I can add in those as needed things, like making my eye doctor appointment, things like that. Okay, and step number 3 is follow through. And this might be the hardest one to consistently do. And it's most important at the beginning, because the more you set up your routine in this way, the more your body would just automatically do it. It just becomes an automatic neural pathway, and your primitive brain starts to quiet down about how it doesn't want to do those things, and you just automatically start to do it. So it's so important right off the bat to really consistently stick to the schedule that you had planned out. And so when it comes to the moment you have to get up and exercise, know that your brain is going to throw a fit, and that's okay, and get up and do it anyway. Imagine that you are going to meet someone that you care dearly about, a best friend, a family member, a spouse, a child, something like that, that you're going to meet them for a date, or you guys are going to go work out together, or you're going to go out and eat a meal if you're working on following through with your food plan. Imagine that you have made a commitment to someone that you love so dearly and you don't want to let them down, so that you can show up and do this, and translate that into loving yourself so much that you don't want to let yourself down. So it's really building that kind of self-relationship when you consistently show up for yourself and do the things that you say you're going to do. So how disappointed would your best friend be if you were both planning on getting up and walking at 5 a.m. and she's standing outside in her walking gear and she's ready to go, and she's just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for you? Imagine yourself in that position, and don't let yourself down. And know that it's going to suck and your brain's going to fight, and that's okay. Once you get going, it's going to feel a lot better. Your brain will quiet down and you're going to not regret that you got up and did this, and just keep doing it. And again, don't think about how, it's Monday, I got up at 5, I have to go work out, and I have to do this again every day for the next 5 days. Only think about this moment. Your best friend is waiting for you. You have to get up and show up for her, and then go do that workout. And all you have to focus on is that moment, just what you need to do in that moment. You don't have to worry about all of the other things that you committed to in the later that day, later that week, later anytime. All you have to focus on is showing up for her right now. If you get overwhelmed, keep coming back to that. All I have to do is worry about what I'm doing right now. And that helps take a lot of pressure and anxiety off about doing this consistently until it is set up so that it is your second nature. This is just what you do. This is your routine, and your brain and your body are used to it. Okay, so that is what I have for you today. I hope this was really helpful, because I always come back to your health boils down to the actions that you take every day. And so you want to make those actions, the easy things that you automatically do, in order to see huge dividends of return when it comes to your health, months, years, decades down the future. Okay? If you want to learn more about my food planning, my food journaling, the way I approach eating, especially in terms of weight loss, head on over to selfhealingdrashley.com and check out the weight loss series. Until then, I will see you next time.